Francois, with your understanding, my statement today will be a little longer than usual. I've been traveling, and this is an important moment for our nations and for the world. This barbaric terrorist group, ISIL, or Daesh, and its murderous ideology, pose a serious threat to all of us. It cannot be tolerated, it must be destroyed, and we must do it together. This is the unity of purpose that brings us here today. In your visit here last year, you said that the French love America. Well, we love the French. Sometimes we Americans are too shy to say so, but we're not feeling shy today. We Americans love France because we dedicate ourselves to the same ideals, that all people deserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. France is our oldest ally. You helped us win our independence. We helped liberate France from fascism. We owe our freedom to each other. We love France for your spirit and your culture, your joie de vivre. Since the attacks, Americans have recalled their own visits to Paris, visiting the Eiffel Tower or walking along the Seine. We know these places. They're part of our memories, woven into the fabric of our lives and our culture. I am very grateful to the French people for the hospitality they've always shown me. And when they welcomed Michelle and our daughters on their first visit to the City of Lights. By my bed in the residence is a picture of me and Michelle in Luxembourg Gardens, kissing. Those are the memories we have of Paris. As early on, I had no gray hair. So when tragedy struck that evening, our hearts broke too. In that stadium and concert hall, in those restaurants and cafes, we see our own. Faces of the French people, we see ourselves. And that's why so many Americans have embraced the blue, white, and red. And that's why Americans at candlelight vigils have joined together to sing the Marseillaise. We've never forgotten how the French people stood with us after 9/11, and today we stand with you. Nous sommes tous Français. It's been noted that the terrorists did not direct their attacks against the French government or military. Rather, they focused their violence on the very spirit of France, and by extension on all liberal democracies. This was an attack on our free and open societies, where people come together to celebrate and sing and compete, in targeting venues where people come together from around the world, killing citizens of nearly 20 countries, including America. This was an attack on the very idea that people of different races and religions and backgrounds can live together in peace. In short, this was not only a strike against one of the world's great cities, it was an attack against the world itself. It's the same madness that has slaughtered the innocent from Nigeria to the Sinai, from Lebanon to Iraq. It is a scourge that threatens all of us. And that's why, for more than a year, the United States, France, and our coalition of some 65 nations have been united in one mission: to destroy these ISIL terrorists and defeat their vile ideology. Today, President Hollande and I reviewed our coalition's progress. More than 8,000 airstrikes, combined with local partners on the ground, have pushed ISIL back from territory in both Iraq and Syria. Today, President Hollande and I agreed that our nations must do even more together. U.S. assistance has supported recent French strikes in Syria, and we're going to keep stepping up that coordination. And as we saw with the attack in Mali, the terrorist threat goes beyond ISIL. This week I'll sign legislation to sustain our support, including airlift and intelligence, to allies like France as we work together to root out terrorist networks in Africa. We'll do even more to prevent attacks at home. Building on our recent intelligence agreement, the United States will continue to quickly share threat information with France. And in the wake of Paris and with the threats in Belgium, there's also a growing recognition among European nations that they need to ramp up additional efforts to prevent the flow of foreign terrorist fighters. As part of that, I'm calling on the European Union to finally implement the agreement that's been long in the works that would require airlines to share passenger information so we can do more to stop foreign terrorist fighters from entering our countries undetected. And I'm prepared to send teams of our experts to work on this with our European partners to make sure we're redoubling our efforts together. Regarding the broader crisis in Syria, President Hollande and I agreed that Russia's strikes against the moderate opposition only bolster the Assad regime, whose brutality has helped to fuel the rise of ISIL. We agree that Russia could play a more constructive role if it were to shift the focus of its strike to defeating ISIL. And likewise, President Hollande and I agreed that the best way to bring peace to Syria is through the principles reaffirmed in Vienna, which require active Russian support for a ceasefire and a political transition away from Assad to a democratically elected government that can unite the Syrian people against terrorism. Finally, Francois and I understand that one of our greatest weapons in the fight against ISIL is the strength and resilience of our people. And here I want to speak directly to the American people. What happened in Paris is truly horrific. I understand that people worry that something similar could happen here. I want you to know that we will continue to do everything in our power to defend our nation. Since 9/11, we've taken extraordinary measures to strengthen our homeland security. Our counterterrorism, homeland security, and law enforcement professionals, federal, state, and local, they are tireless. They have prevented attacks, and they have saved lives. They are working every hour, every day for our security. They did so before Paris, they do so now, and they will not stop. They're the best in the world. But it's not just our security professionals who will defeat ISIL and other terrorist groups. As Americans, we all have a role to play in how we respond to threats. Groups like ISIL cannot defeat us on the battlefield, so they try to terrorize us at home, against soft targets, against civilians, against innocent people. Even as we're vigilant, we cannot and we will not succumb to fear. Nor can we allow fear to divide us, for that's how terrorists win. We cannot give them the victory of changing how we go about living our lives. The good news is Americans are resilient. We mourned the lives lost at Fort Hood, the Boston Marathon, at Chattanooga, but we did not waver. Our communities have come together. We've gone to ball games, and we've gone to concerts, and we've gone shopping, and men and women who want to serve our country continue to go to military recruiting offices. We're vigilant, we take precautions, but we go about our business. To those who want to harm us, our actions have shown that we have too much resolve and too much character. Americans will not be terrorized. I say all this because another part of being vigilant, another part of defeating terrorists like ISIL, is upholding the rights and freedoms that define our two great republics. That includes freedom of religion. That includes equality before the law. There have been times in our history, in moments of fear, when we have failed to uphold our highest ideals, and it has been to our lasting regret. We must uphold our ideals now. Each of us, all of us, must show that America is strengthened by people of every faith and every background. And related to this, I want to note that under President Hollande, France plans to welcome 30,000 additional Syrian refugees over the next 2 years. Here in the United States, refugees coming to America go through up to 2 years of intense security checks, including biometric screening. Nobody who sets foot in America goes through more screening than refugees. And we're prepared to share these tools with France and our European partners. As Francois has said, our humanitarian duty to help desperate refugees and our duty to our security, those duties go hand in hand. On the Statue of Liberty, a gift from the people of France. There are words we know so well. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to be free. That's the spirit that makes us American. That's the spirit that binds us to France. That's the spirit we need today. In closing, I want to salute the people of Paris for showing the world how to stay strong in the face of terrorism. Even as they grieve, Parisians have begun returning to their cafes, riding the metro, going to stadiums to cheer for their teams. Crowds gathered in the Place de la République, including a mother who brought her children. She said, to let them see that we should not be afraid. As one Parisian said, Paris will always be Paris. And next week, I will be joining President Hollande and world leaders in Paris for the Global Climate Conference. What a powerful rebuke to the terrorists it will be when the world stands as one and shows that we will not be deterred from building a better future for our children. So, President Hollande, my fellow Americans, let's remember we faced greater threats to our way of life before. Fascism, communism, a First World War, the Second, a long Cold War. Each and every time we prevailed. We have prevailed because our way of life is stronger, because we stay united, because even as we are relentless in the face of evil, we draw on what's best in ourselves and in the character of our countries. It will be no different this time. Make no mistake, we will win, and groups like ISIL will lose. In standing with allies like France, we will continue to show the world the best of American leadership. Vive la France, and God bless the United States of America. Mr. President.
Mesdames, Messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me, first and foremost, to thank the President of the United States, Barack Obama, for the solidarity he has shown immediately as we found out about the terror attacks. He was the first to call me. It was very late in France, 2 a.m., when Barack called. The President of the United States had already expressed his solidarity towards France, his emotion, his compassion against the horror. And on that night, he meant to tell me that the United States stood by France, that the help that could be provided to France would have no limit, and that we had a duty, a joint duty, to pull our forces together and fight terrorism.
je n'oublie pas non plus tous les messages que le peuple américain a adressés au cours de ces derniers jours au peuple
I'll just
français.
take up from that translation you perhaps
Ces
were just
drapeaux
hearing here, and
tricolores
the French president just saying here,
agités
paying tribute
dans toutes les
to
manifestations.
the various
ces bougies posées
demonstrations
devant
of
des lieux qui
solidarity
rappelaient la
that have
France,
been
qui était la France.
going
ici,
across the country as well as across the world,
Ces Marseillaises entonnées
as
dans
well
les
as
cérémonies
the
officielles.
show of solidarities across
C'est
the
vrai
world
que
with people
le 11
singing
septembre,
the French
tous
national
les
anthem.
Français étaient
And he's just
américains.
saying that it's true that on
Et après
9/11
le 13
all
novembre,
the French people were
les Américains
American,
étaient français.
and after
Nos deux peuples,
the 13th of November,
fusionnés
all the Americans were
dans
French, and both our people
la même émotion, mais surtout dans la même défense de la
mixed
liberté,
in the
la même
same, shared
ferveur
the same
à
emotion,
porter nos valeurs.
wanted to show
Nous
they
ne
are
sommes pas
united in this
deux
fight
peuples
for freedom, that
semblables.
they share the same
Nous
values.
avons notre histoire,
We're not
nous
similar
avons
people.
notre culture, nos origines,
We have our
mais nous
own,
avons la même
we have different
foi dans la
culture
liberté.
and different origins, but we have the same faith in
C'est la
freedom.
France qui a été agressée le 13.
It's France
Novembre
that
dernier.
was attacked on the 13th of
La
November.
France, dans ce qu'elle est, un pays
France,
que nous considérons comme unique au
that
monde,
we consider,
parce qu'il parle au monde. C'est la France qui a été attaquée
it's France which was
pour ce qu'elle
attacked
représente, pour ce qu'elle porte,
for
sa
what
culture,
it represents,
joie de
its
vivre.
culture, the joie de vivre,
mais aussi
but
ses
also
valeurs,
for its
ses
values,
principes.
its principles.
Mais en attaquant la France, c'était le
But
monde
by
entier.
attacking
Les
France,
terroristes, les assassins lâches de Daesh.
the
Vous les
cowardly
Il y avait dans les cafés,
Daesh,
dans les restaurants
Islamic State,
et dans ce lieu de spectacle, le
by attacking
Bataclan,
people in the concert
des
hall of
femmes,
Bataclan and
des hommes jeunes
in the cafes,
souvent,
the women,
qui
young women, men,
appartenaient à plus de 20 nationalités,
were all part of 20
qui avaient
different nationalities
la même envie de vivre.
who had the same desire,
C'est pour cela
to
qu'ils ont
live.
été tués.
and it's for that reason that
Les
they were
pensées
killed.
vont vers les proches de Noémie González,
Thinking
cette
of
jeune étudiante américaine
the relatives
qui
of
était venue
Naomi
là
Gonzalez, the
aussi
young American student,
partager
was
un
there
moment
to
de culture.
share a
de joie.
moment of culture, and
Je pense aussi à ce
Joy.
groupe américain qui se
too
produisait au Bataclan.
the American rock
C'était le
group
signe
who were
aussi que nos
performing
cultures
that
là
night.
se confondaient pour créer le même enthousiasme, frappé,
Try to have
fauché.
the same
par les
enthusiasm.
terroristes.
That
Nous avons
enthusiasm
devant
which was
nous
hit by the terrorists.
Un groupe
We're faced
terroriste
with
qui
a
s'est
terrorist group
organisé sur un territoire, qui dispose de ressources
which
importantes,
has enormous resources,
qui prospère avec le trafic
which prospers
du pétrole,
with illegal
de
traffic
drogue,
of petrol,
trafic des
drugs,
êtres humains,
oil, human
qui,
trafficking.
depuis le début de l'année,
A group which,
n'a
since
cessé
the
de
start of the
frapper
year,
de nombreux pays,
has
le Danemark,
carried
la
out
Tunisie,
incessant attacks on
Liban,
other
le
countries,
Koweït,
Denmark, Kuwait,
la Turquie, l'Égypte
Libya,
et
Egypt,
la Russie,
Russia,
avec ce crash qui s'est
with the
produit, provoqué par
crash
Daesh.
which was claimed by
Alors,
Daesh in
Avec le
Sinai.
président Obama, nous voulions aujourd'hui,
President
à
Obama and
l'occasion
I
de cette
today
rencontre, d'abord partager
would like to
notre farouche détermination à lutter
share
contre le terrorisme partout,
determination
à vouloir
as he
aussi
said, to
dire au monde
destroy this group,
que nous ne laisserons pas faire ceux qui veulent
this group
annihiler,
which
détruire ce que nous avons
won't allow
construit
people, or this group
génération
which is
après
trying to
génération.
annihilate
Nous ne laisserons
everything
pas
that
abîmer
we've
le
built
monde.
over generations.
Et face à
thousands of
Daesh,
years.
nous devons avoir une réponse commune, collective.
It's important
Et
that we have a
implacable.
collective shared
Nous sommes
response
unis, la
against
France
this
et les
group,
États-Unis, pour
and
donner
today
cette
we're
réponse.
together, the United States
Sur le
and
plan
France, to
militaire,
give this response.
il s'agit de détruire Daesh partout
Regarding
où il
on
se
the military
trouve,
front, we want to
de
destroy them
couper
wherever
ses
they
sources
are,
de financement, de traquer ses
most
dirigeants,
of all their
de
financing,
démanteler ses réseaux et
to
de
dismantle
reconquérir
their
les
réseaux.
territoires qu'il contrôle.
their network.
Nous avons donc décidé,
So
le
we've
président
decided
Obama et moi-même, d'intensifier nos frappes,
to intensify
En Syrie
our
comme en
airstrikes in Syria,
d'élargir leur portée, de renforcer les échanges de
reinforce
renseignements sur les cibles
our
que nous devons
exchanges
viser.
over our
La
targets,
priorité
most
est
of all
la reprise des points clés occupés par Daesh en
to
Syrie. Il est
hit
également urgent
the key targets
de
of
fermer la
Daesh in
frontière
Syria.
entre la Syrie et la Turquie pour qu'aucun terroriste ne vienne
We also plan
notamment en
to
Europe
close the border
pour
between Syria and
perpétrer
Turkey so that
les
no
actes barbares,
terrorists
ceux que nous avons
can
connus.
enter
Nous avons
European
aussi
Union and
décidé de
perpetrate
travailler avec nos
barbaric
partenaires
acts.
de la
We've
coalition en
also
Irak
decided to work with our
et de
partners
soutenir
from
tous
the
ceux qui
coalition
combattent au
in
sol
Iraq
Daesh
in order to support
et de
all
faire
of
en
those
sorte
who
que
fight
ces
Islamic State
forces-là
on the ground.
puissent être
And we will
aidées, équipées par
will do whatever's necessary so
l'ensemble
that
des
these
pays qui
forces
veulent,
can be
sur le
equipped
plan militaire, détruire.
by all the countries
La résolution du Conseil de
which
sécurité
want to or are
qui a été
able to
votée à l'unanimité vendredi
contribute
dernier,
to this fight against
qui a été proposée
the
par la
Islamic
France et
State
soutenue par les
militants.
États-Unis,
The resolution
nous
of
donne les
the
moyens d'agir.
United Nations Security Council
C'est ce
last
que fait
week,
la
which was
France. En
unanimously
ce moment
adopted,
même,
will give
nous
us the
porte avions
means
Charles
to
de Gaulle
take
est en
action.
Méditerranée orientale et multiplie nos
Right
capacités
now,
d'intervention.
the French warship, the Charles
Hier,
de Gaulle,
nous
is
avons à
in
nouveau
the
et pour la
Eastern
6e
Mediterranean
fois depuis les
Sea
attentats frappé Raqqa.
and
Par
is
ailleurs,
increasing
nos avions ont
our
poursuivi l'appui
capacity
aux
to
combattants
intervene.
irakiens dans la région de Ramadi et de Mossoul dans le cadre de la
We will
coalition.
continue to support
Ensuite,
the
sur le plan du
fighters in
renseignement,
Iraq.
le président Obama et moi-même,
And in terms of intelligence, President
c'était
Obama and I,
dès la nuit du drame, encore renforcé notre coopération, nos échanges d'informations. Et je
we have both
salue aussi tout ce que nous faisons pour que
underlined
les
our
expertises des uns et des autres
to
soient mises au service
exchange information, to
contrôle
share
des
our
mouvements qui
intelligence,
peuvent emprunter
and
les
to do
terroristes,
all that we can so that
de
our
façon à ce que nous ne laissions pas faire.
joint expertise,
Parce que ce qu'ils veulent, c'est terroriser bien au-delà de la Syrie ou de l'Irak
expertise of both of our
ou des pays
countries
voisins.
can
Ce
be
qu'ils
shared,
veulent, c'est d'une certaine façon créer l'effroi partout,
because it's
pour que nous
important
puissions douter de nous-mêmes, pour que nous puissions prendre des décisions qui seraient contraires même à ce que nous voulons pour la liberté ou pour le droit. Là aussi, nous ne céderons pas. Mais en même temps, nous devons nous défendre et utiliser les moyens du renseignement. Sur le plan diplomatique,
At the same time, we
nous
have to
travaillons
defend
à une
ourselves
transition politique
and
crédible en
use
Syrie.
intelligence.
Dans le cadre du
On the
processus de
diplomatic
Vienne,
front, we're
et
working
je
on
salue le travail que font
credible
John Kerry et
solutions
Laurent
in
Fabius
Syria.
pour trouver
Our foreign
un
minister,
calendrier
Laurent
précis
Fabius,
permettant un cessez-le-feu, plus rapide sera le mieux, et l'ouverture d'un processus
has
conduisant
been
au
carrying out
départ de
sterling
Bachar
work.
el-Assad. Car comment imaginer que les Syriens puissent
Because
se
how can we imagine
réunir, se rassembler
the Syrian people
avec celui qui est à
come
l'origine
together
de
with
ce qui a été l'un
Bashar
des plus grands
al-Assad,
massacres de
perhaps
ces dernières années, près de
this
300
man
000 morts.
is responsible
Il
for
doit y avoir une transition
300,000
politique.
deaths.
Il doit y
It's possible
avoir
to imagine that
un
people come
gouvernement
around the table.
d'union, mais qui doit conduire au départ de Bachar el-Assad.
This man,
L'Europe est,
So,
Barack
the
y est revenu,
process
est directement
must lead
concernée
to
par
the
la crise
departure
syrienne.
of the Syrian president,
D'abord
Bashar
parce qu'il y a cette
al-Assad.
menace terroriste. Ensuite parce qu'il y a des milliers de réfugiés qui fuient
Everybody is
les
concerned
bombardements
by the crisis in
du
Syria.
régime et les atrocités de Daesh. Les abandonner à leur sort.
It's not
Serait
only the
renier
refugees
ce que nous
who are
sommes.
fleeing the atrocities
C'est pourquoi je refuse
committed
l'amalgame
by the
entre
Islamic
migrants.
State. So to abandon
et terroristes.
those refugees would be
Mais en
to
même temps,
a denial of
nous
our
devons
own
contrôler
beliefs.
les frontières. Et notamment
So I don't want
ce
to
qui
conflate
aujourd'hui est en cause,
immigrants with
c'est-à-dire
terrorists,
traverser au
but at the same
risque
time
même
we
de la
have to
vie
control our borders.
des personnes qui fuient. Traverser
But
la
today,
mer entre la Turquie et la Grèce.
for
Et c'est
people
pourquoi le
to
rôle
cross
de la
the sea
Turquie est
between
important.
Turkey and Greece
Que nous devons, avec la
At their own
Turquie,
peril.
trouver des solutions
is a reality
pour
that
que
we have to
les réfugiés restent au plus près
face. And we have to
de leur
find
pays
solutions
d'origine.
with Turkey so that the
nous
refugees
puissions
stay as
être
close as
sûrs
possible.
qu'il
to
y aura
their country
sur
of
la
origin.
frontière les contrôles indispensables.
And we have to
Jeudi, je me rendrai à
make sure that
pour y rencontrer Vladimir Poutine. Je lui dirai que la France peut travailler avec la Russie si elle concentre son action militaire sur Daesh, sur l'État islamique, et si elle s'engage pleinement pour la recherche d'une solution politique en Syrie. C'est ce que nous voulons faire, c'est-à-dire unir tous les pays,
what we're looking to do now
ceux qui ont
is to unite all the
la
countries,
volonté de
all
chercher
those
et de
who've
trouver
been who have the will to look for and to find a political solution in Syria
mais de faire en sorte
without
que cette solution politique
without putting anyone aside,
éradiquer le terrorisme.
but so that this political solution can be a solution to eradicate terrorism.
À Paris, la réunion de la conférence sur...
As from Monday, there will be in Paris
Je n'imaginais pas
a conference on climate change, the Global Climate Change Conference. I couldn't imagine the context under which this
et en même temps,
conference would take place, but at the same time,
plus beau symbole, plus belle réponse
I think
que de
it's
recevoir à Paris
there's no more
là
beautiful
où il y a
symbol,
eu ces attaques.
there is no more
Là
beautiful
où nous
response
avons donné les réponses
than
qui convenaient
to
en
host
termes de protection,
in Paris,
de sécurité,
the place,
mais aussi
the scene
de
of
défense
this
de
massive
nos principes et
tragedy,
de nos valeurs. Oui, pas de plus
that
beau
we have
symbole
this powerful
que de
symbol,
réunir la conférence
and for our
sur le climat
values, there is
à
no
Paris,
better symbol
avec
than to host
150 chefs d'État
this
et de gouvernement.
massively important
Jamais
conference
la France
where 150 heads of states
accueilli
and
autant
governments
de
will be
responsables
present.
de la
Never
communauté internationale
has
Ils
never
viennent
seen
pour
hosted such
régler la question
or so
du
many
climat
leaders
et
from the
pour
international
chercher et
community.
trouver là encore
They're coming to find a
l'accord
solution.
indispensable pour limiter les émissions de gaz à effet de
They're
serre,
coming to find an agreement
que
to
nos enfants,
limit
nos petits-enfants vivent mieux.
greenhouse gas, harmful greenhouse gas emissions so that our children and grandchildren can live simply and live better. But they're also coming to show
À la lutte
their
contre
attachment
le
to
fanatisme,
freedom,
l'obscurantisme, l'extrémisme
to
religieux,
fight, to show their
cet
fight
islamisme
against
qui
religious
devient
extremism
radical à ce moment-là.
and fanaticism,
Dangereux.
which has become radical
Oui, ils viennent là, tous,
and
au-delà de
therefore
leur
dangerous.
sensibilité,
They're all
au-delà
coming.
de leurs croyances, de leurs convictions, pour affirmer le même principe,
They're all
les
coming
mêmes
to
valeurs,
show,
avec un même mot, la vie.
to express the same values with one word,
pourquoi
life.
Je me félicite
That's
du
why
président Obama
I'm happy to congratulate
nous
President
permettre de
Obama
réussir cette conférence.
can help
Je
us,
salue, non seulement les déclarations qu'il a faites tout au long
not only for the
ces
declaration that
dernières
he
semaines et ces derniers mois, mais
made
les engagements
earlier, but also for his promises,
au nom des États-Unis, au nom du monde. Il était très important que
because the commitments that he's undertaken on behalf of the United States
sans
are
doute
extremely
le
important.
plus émetteur de gaz
It's
à effet de
extremely important that one of the world's most powerful countries
de l'avenir, comme il a été au rendez-vous de l'histoire.
demonstrates
Parce que ce que
and
nous
leads
avons
by
à
example.
faire à Paris, au début de la semaine prochaine, c'est de montrer que la vie non seulement continue, mais que la vie est
We
protégée
want to show that life goes
et
on
préparée.
next week, but we also want to show that life is valuable
La France et les
and
États-Unis, par leur
protected,
histoire,
not only for us but for our
les valeurs
children.
qui ont
France and the
constitué
United
l'histoire
States,
de
by
deux
their
nations,
shared history, their shared values,
cette responsabilité d'agir dans
by their
l'urgence pour le présent
combined spirit, have this
contre le
responsibility to act now
cette organisation Daesh
against terrorism,
et en même temps
against the Islamic State,
l'avenir. Je suis,
as well as for the future for
même s'il est
the
dramatique,
climate.
heureux
And it's in this context, even though it's dramatic, I'm happy to be able to
merci.
be here today by Barack Obama's side to send this message to the world.
We've got time for a few questions. I'm going to start with Roberta Rampton of Reuters.
Thank you. This is a question for both of you. First, what is your reaction to Turkey shooting down a Russian plane today? And does this draw NATO into a confrontation with Russia? How do you keep this from spiraling out of control? And President Obama, what does this incident mean for future prospects of military coordination, more military coordination with Russia? President Hollande, ahead of your trip to Moscow on Thursday, what are the prospects for closer military coordination with Russia, given what happened today?
Well, first of all, we're still getting the details of what happened, and I expect to be in communications potentially directly with President Erdogan sometime over the next several days. Turkey, like every country, has a right to defend its territory and its airspace. I think it's very important right now for us to make sure that both the Russians and the Turks are talking to each other, find out exactly what happened, and take measures to discourage any kind of escalation. I do think that this points to an ongoing problem with the Russian operations, in the sense that they are operating very close to a Turkish border, and they are going after moderate opposition that are supported by not only Turkey but a wide range of countries. And if Russia is directing its energies towards Daesh and ISIL, some of those conflicts or potentials for mistakes or escalation are less likely to occur. I also think this underscores the importance of us making sure that we move this political track forward as quickly as possible. Like President Hollande, our view from the start has been that Russia is welcome to be part of this broad-based coalition that we've set up. There's never been a point in time in which we said that we don't want Russia or other countries that may have differences with us on a whole host of other things to avoid working with us against ISIL. The challenge has been Russia's focus on propping up Assad rather than focusing on ISIL. I had a conversation with President Putin in Turkey, and I indicated to him at the time that to the extent that they make that strategic shift, focus on the Vienna process where they have been constructive to try to bring all the parties together, try to execute a political transition that all parties would agree to, and refocus attention on going after ISIL, then there's enormous capacity for us to cooperate. Until that happens, it's very difficult. It's difficult because if their priority is attacking the moderate opposition that might be future members of an inclusive Syrian government, Russia's not going to get the support of us or a range of other members of the coalition. But I do think that there is the possibility of cooperation. The sooner we agree to this political process, the less likely that you have the kinds of events that took place apparently today.